Hey Credit Warriors, Credit Shifu here, and today we are looking at 5 rookie credit card mistakes, okay? So this is aimed at people who either are just starting out or don't have that much experience, and they make these kinds of mistakes with their sort of lower level credit cards. And we do have another video, 5 premium credit card mistakes. If you want to see that, we'll put it at the end of this video, and that's mistakes people make with the sort of high level credit cards, the ones with high annual fees. All right. Let's get into the video. So number 1 is signing up for fee harvester cards, all right? So when your credit score starts to build, all right, so let's say you have one credit card maybe, or you've got a loan from Self-Lender or something like that to help you build your credit score. As your credit score starts to build, you're gonna start receiving junk mail, okay? And you'll get a lot of junk mail from certain companies that are basically, they offer sort of credit, what's advertised as kind of like credit builder cards. They're really sort of fee harvester cards, okay? They generally tend to have high fees, probably not high annual fees, but high fees for things like, you know, late payments, over the limit, foreign transactions, all that kind of stuff. The fees are high, okay? But in addition to that, there is one extra thing about these cards which can be really bad, okay? And that's the fact that they charge you interest as soon as items post to your account, okay? As soon as purchases are made. So have a look at the terms and conditions here from a Credit One credit card. So in this box, you can read, you'll be charged interest on purchases, balance transfers, and cash advances from the posting date, okay? So that means the date that you actually make the purchase, interest will already start accruing. So even if you pay it off, you know, within a few days, you're still gonna get charged a little bit of interest. Now let's contrast that with the terms and conditions of the Chase Freedom, a reputable credit card from Chase. Again, in the how to avoid paying interest box, your due date will be a minimum of 21 days after the closing of each billing cycle. We will not charge you interest on purchases if you pay your entire balance by the due date each month. We will begin charging interest on balance transfers and cash advances on the transaction date. So with the Chase Freedom, you have a month where you can make purchases, no interest will be charged. Then your billing cycle closes and you get issued a bill, and you then on top of that have 21 more days to pay before you get charged interest. So if you bought something at the beginning of the month, you potentially have almost 2 months. You have like 51 days or so of interest-free period, of grace period, okay? Now contrast that with the Credit One card is, interest is charged as soon as you make the purchases. Now, to be fair to Credit One, some of their cards do have grace periods, but those tend to be the cards they offer to people with higher credit scores. But then you've got to ask the question, if you had a higher credit score, why would you want a Credit One card? Because their cards are specifically for people who are building credit, and they're not even that good for building credit anyway. So how can you avoid this? Well, my recommendation is if you're building your credit, don't sign up for one of these fee harvester cards. Just sign up for something like the Capital One Platinum, or if you can't get that, Capital One Secure MasterCard. You can also look at Discover. They have a secured card that's very good. And if you're a student, there are various student cards. Sign up for these kind of cards from reputable banks like Capital One, Discover, Chase, Bank of America, etc., all the big names. And if you can't get a normal credit card, get a secured credit card from one of those issuers. Our next mistake is signing up for 5 credit cards before you sign up for any Chase credit cards. So Chase has a thing called the 524 rule, and basically what that is that if you've opened 5 new accounts in the past 24 months, that's 2 years, you won't be allowed to open any Chase credit card accounts. I've been denied a Chase card because of this rule in the past. And so basically what you do at the beginning when you first start building your credit score, perhaps your first credit card wouldn't be from Chase. Normally it's something like Capital One or Discover would be good for a first card, because Chase probably aren't going to give you a card if you don't have any kind of credit score to speak of. But once you've built your score a little bit, you should definitely look into getting at least some Chase cards within your first 5 credit cards, okay? So apply for the ones you want, the Chase cards that you want, before you've maxed out that 5 in 24 months, sorry. That's 2 years. So what I would recommend would be after you've had your first card, maybe a Capital One Platinum, then you could move on to something like the Chase Freedom, which is a great first Chase card. And then you've got like 3 more slots out of those 5. So you could then move up and get like a Sapphire card. You could look at some of the Chase hotel cards, like the Hyatt card, Marriott card, etc. Some of their airline cards. And yeah, just basically before you've opened 5 accounts, make sure you apply for the Chase credit cards that you want. So yeah, that's how to fix it. Apply for Chase cards first, and then once you have 5 credit cards, then move on to other issuers. Number 3, forgetting to pay. Now, this one is super obvious, okay? So just forgetting to pay your bill. that would be terrible, right? I mean, if it's 30 days late, you're going to get a missed payment on your credit report, and but you would think that it's quite easy to remember to pay your bill, and it is, but there are some circumstances that I have seen that can kind of catch you out, okay? So first of all, just in general, remember to pay your bills each month. Use AutoPay to pay at least the minimum payment. But then always remember to check your accounts, even accounts that you don't use, okay? Now, I'm going to give you one scenario which can catch people out, and that is, let's say someone had borrowed a bit of money on a card, they paid their minimum payment, but they had let some of that balance roll over to the next month, okay? So they paid a little bit of interest. So they, a little bit of interest had been, generated by that money on their balance. Then they paid their card before the closing of their statement, okay? But the interest generated, so the account was taken down to zero, okay, at the end of the month, but the interest generated actually added interest after the statement closed, okay? So they would have seen zero, they would have got to the end of the billing statement, and then a few dollars would have been added, okay, in interest from the previous billing period, okay, because it's added at the end of the billing period. But this person thinks their balance is zero. And because they'd been in debt on this card, they decide, oh, you know what? I'm not going to use this card. I'm going to put it in a drawer. I'm not going to touch it. Bye-bye. But little do they know that interest has been added, okay? And then when it comes around to the next month, the next due date, because there's a slight balance on the card and they don't know about it, they forget to pay and they incur a $35 late payment fee, all right? That's then added to the balance. And then interest is further accrued on that $35 plus the original amount, and then because the next month they're still not looking at this card, another $35 late payment fee. And this could go on for several months before they realize, okay, before a late payment appears on their credit report, and they're like, wait a minute, what is this late payment on this account? And then they go check it and they're like, whoa, I owe $100 on this card. How did that happen? And their credit score would have been damaged by the late payments. So that's just one scenario that can happen that can catch people out, all right? So remembering to pay sounds simple, but there are a few scenarios that can catch you out. And the way to remedy this is just to always have AutoPay set up, at least for the minimum payment, okay? Some people like it for the whole amount. I personally don't, because what if you made a very large purchase? You might need to move some money from your savings account to your checking account to pay it, and you don't want the credit card automatically taking that money out unless you're ready to do it, okay? So I just do it for the minimum payment so that you'll always, always, there's no chance of you ever having a missed payment on any account. Number 4, forgetting about product change rules, okay? And this is a really common one that I've seen with people who don't have that much experience, in that they get one credit card, maybe they get it for the sign-up bonus or whatever, or they get it for a certain perk, and they want to either upgrade it or downgrade it afterwards, okay? And if you're gonna do this, I mean, this can be a sound strategy, right? But you do need to check the product change rules before you actually apply for the initial card. I'll give you an example. Now, let's say that you want to get the Sapphire Reserve, but you see the Sapphire Preferred and you see that the sign-up bonus is 10,000 more points, right? It's 60,000 versus only 50,000 on the Reserve. So you first apply for the Preferred to get the sign-up bonus, and then you think, oh, after 3 months, I'll upgrade it to the Reserve. Well, actually, no, because Chase has a rule that you need to wait 13 months before you can upgrade your Sapphire Preferred to Sapphire Reserve, all right? And if you didn't check that, then you would be stuck with the Sapphire Preferred. I actually have a friend who applied for the Preferred by accident, thinking it was the Reserve. And, well, he plans to upgrade it, but he's stuck with it for 13 months until that passes. And this can also be, an issue with other issuers, okay? So you need to check what you can either upgrade or downgrade your card to. So with American Express, you can only up or downgrade within the same series of cards, like Amex Hilton or the Amex Charge cards or whatever. You can't go from business to personal or personal to business, okay? So you need to be aware of these things. Capital One, you can only upgrade or downgrade to the cards that they offer you, all right? So you have to phone them up and they have upgrade offers for you and you can choose which one, but it might not include all of them. And I'll give you an example of one that has worked well, okay, that we did was Mrs. Credit who applied for the Sapphire Preferred. She actually, she had it for 1 year. The first year annual fee was waived. And then after the first year, I had already got the Sapphire Reserve. So she's like, well, we already have one Sapphire in our household. We don't really need to. I might as well downgrade it to the Freedom to avoid the annual fee. And so that's what she did, and that was allowed. Okay, you can downgrade to the Freedom, but you wouldn't be able to upgrade to the Sapphire Reserve unless it had been 13 months. Our fifth and final mistake is forgetting to pay attention to interest rates. Now, this is obviously for someone who has a little bit of debt on credit cards. We always advise people never to go in debt, always pay your balance in full. So, for some of our viewers, this won't apply. But for some people, it can sometimes be unavoidable that you get into a little bit of debt, an unforeseen medical expense, for example. You crash your car, you got to pay a deductible, something like that. And so, yeah, sometimes people do get into a little bit of debt, and you do need to pay attention to interest rates, okay? Because there are good deals out there with interest rates, and sometimes people miss them just because they're not paying enough attention. So you could have put a debt onto a card that had, say, a 25% interest rate, but sitting in your wallet, you might have a relatively new card that you applied for a few months ago that actually still has a 0% APR promotional period for like 12 months or 15 months, for example, okay? So that's kind of an example of you missing out and paying interest where you don't need to. Also, if you do have a bit of debt on a card that's taking you a while to pay back, but your credit score is still pretty good, you could consider moving that debt over to a balance transfer card where you have a promotional period where you pay 0% on that balance transfer. Chase Slate is a very good balance transfer card. There's quite a few others as well. So why pay like 24, 25% when you could be paying 0%? And this is a common mistake that a lot of people who have a little bit of debt make just because they're not paying enough attention, okay? So guys, those are 5 rookie credit card mistakes that people towards the beginning of the game make. If you think of any more, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear them. I'll put one of my favorite cards for building your credit score, the Capital One Platinum, in the description below, and also the Capital One Secured MasterCard. If you're unable to get the unsecured version, you guys can check those out, learn more about them. It is, of course, an affiliate link, so feel free to have a look at our advertiser disclosure, which is in the bottom of the description section of this video. As always, guys, please subscribe if you're new. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.